Watching News at Prime, let's get into another important conversation. The Constitutional Court today declaring parts of the Births and Deaths Act invalid, allowing husbands to assume the surnames of their wives. Two couples approached the top court who sought confirmation on an order of the Free State High Court. Now, Justice Leona Theron confirming the order of constitutional invalidity by the lower court. Parliament has been given 2 years to make the necessary amendments. Well, let's get some more reaction now on this particular ruling and particularly on the cultural implications of this ruling. We're joined now by Icamagu Heritage Institute African Culture and Spirituality Specialist, Professor Nokuzola Mndende. Professor, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. South Africa is a multicultural society. How likely are we to see more couples taking up this opportunity?
Good evening, Koli and the viewers. You know, it's a pity that the highest court of the land did not recognize the diversity. I'm not saying they should not have discussed it, but they have not recognized the diversity of this country. Then there are many processes that they've ignored for them to take a decision and instruct Parliament to say, do away with this. That's not democracy, and that's not equality, that's dictatorship. Because, Koli, in the first place, we are the couple that applied is fine for them, but it's not fine for the African culture and spirituality because we are clan-based. Our identities are based on our clans. And in fact, even the issue of the surname came with colonialism because they wanted to register us. Otherwise, we were clan-based, and with us, we want some generations from now to go on. So if now my husband is going to use my surname, that means he's destroying his own identity, his own background, his own genealogy. That's according to our culture. So that decision, it's unfortunately, it favors a certain race, it favors a certain class. And to me, I'm surprised about those judges that are in the Constitutional Court. How come can they come to such a decision without listening to us, listening to the majority of these people? Because they just wanted to satisfy a small portion of the people of this country. So to us, it is destroying our culture. And I did agree with the judge when he says that it's going to liberate women, because these acts that they are making, they are oppressing women more than ever before. If those acts were liberating, why is gender-based violence escalating day in and day out? It's because of the laws that are made in those courts. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Parliament has to listen to the highest court to say, okay, it's fine, let us change this. Changing what? About whom? Because they are talking about us without us. Okay. So there is no democracy in all these things. It's just because of the wealthier.
That's a very interesting way to look at it when you say laws or decisions such as this one that has been confirmed today is going to oppress women even more, because at the core of this particular judgment, or at the core of this particular case, if I understood it correctly, was the balancing that is guaranteed between male and female. At the core of it was about the equality between males and females. Now, how do you, let me understand your reasoning when you say this is going to oppress women even more.
Okay, Koli, in the first place, I like it when you say it was for balancing equality and so on. The question I must ask you, from whose eyes when you talk about this equality? Because these people never asked us about this equality and so on. For instance, Koli, in our culture, you know the importance of the paternal aunts or Dadoba or the Rakhatis. And again, it is this bringing of this surname that oppressed women, because in the past, before they registered as by force, what happened? I would be called by my clan name. Even if I'm married to Mkambi, I'll be called Madlamini, because that's my identity. There was no oppression with that. But when they introduced the surname, that is when oppression came in. So they must first understand that before colonialism, we were not as oppressed as it is now. Now, when I say this is going to make women suffer more, in our culture, no man can go and depend on the wife's parents and so on, and wife's home. That is why we regard that as a weak man. And in my language, you call it usmayeni. Just imagine when my husband is going to stay with me. And we must understand, Tony, one other thing is that these people that brought this case are not the people who are coming from a communal way of life. They are coming from an individualistic way of life. So now, for us to be told that a son-in-law must use his wife's surname, that's a joke and a half, because he will never be respected there, because he will find himself involved in many things. So with us, let them hear from us. What do we mean by equality? What do we mean by oppression? Because this type of patriarchy that is being introduced now there is a law that we must maintain men. You see, so again, it favors men. So this man who is going to use my surname and it will say he wants to be maintained by me. If I don't do that, it's going to kill me.
Sure.
Otherwise,
that's a very
these
interesting.
laws are creating irresponsible males. They are irresponsible, but they will be having their physical strength to oppress us, because that's the only strength that they have, is to be physical. That's why they are doing this now. It's because they are going to be irresponsible.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. Let's explore another element to this, because one of the husbands spoke to us today, and he says part of what they wanted to preserve here is the identities of both the husband and the wife. And he makes an example about how he inquired within his family about his maternal great-grandmother. And I think I listened to him very carefully, and no one could answer him as to what her great-grandmother's surname was. And this is why he is stressing the importance of making sure that the two sides, the two histories from both sides, are preserved. Is that not a strong enough argument?
Well, it's so unfortunate for them, because if now we can allow this, that is going to happen, what he's complaining of. Because with us, even when you invoke your ancestors, you invoke from your mother's side, from your father's side, from your paternal grandmother, from your maternal grandmother, and so on and so on. So we know that. So this is what is going to be destroyed now. If my husband is going to use Mndende as his surname, so that means his paternal side is lost. is going to be confused. So because with us we're fortunate, we are still entrenched in our culture, in our genealogies, in our histories. We know those things. That is my paternal great-grandmother. We know them. And we're teaching our children about them. So now it is going to be confusing if the males, the paternal side, is going to be swallowed or is going to dissolve in the maternal side. That is killing the African culture. I want to be honest. That is why I'm saying the Constitutional Court failed to understand that the diversity of this country. And because of people who are less than 5, now they made a decision for the whole country. As a result, now you don't know whether you are in South Africa or you are in Europe. Because what is happening now, I'm telling you, is suppressing the black identity.
Sure. Professor Nokuzola Mndende, thank you very much for your time and your way of analyzing this particular precedent-setting case. I'm sure there's going to be much more conversations around this. Thank you very much for your time, Professor. She's from the Icamagu Heritage Institute, African Culture and Spirituality.